Okay, you see the full screen, yeah?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, so I'm John Lipinski, as Rachel said, the co-founder and president of Ecopia. And at Ecopia, we're digitizing the world using artificial intelligence. And what I mean by that is we're taking every source of data that we can get our hands on, everything from aerial imagery, satellite imagery, street view imagery, property data such as parcel data, address data, putting that into a computer, mining it with our AI, and outputting this digital representation of reality. And once you have that, of course, a lot of very interesting analytics then become unlocked. And we've been doing this for many years. So our data is now embedded into hundreds of customer applications spanning over 100 different countries around the world. And we actually didn't get our start in insurance. Insurance is a bit of a startup within our organization. We started in industries such as telecommunications, government, NGOs. And through these engagements, we really learned the value of high accuracy data at a very large scale. So we're taking all these learnings and now bringing it into the insurance space. And our entry into insurance really started a couple years ago in the United States when we completed the first and only complete map of every single building across the country. So it's 169 million buildings across 8 million kilometers squared, created entirely from scratch using satellite imagery as the input, running that through our AI engine, and then outputting this map. And it took us only 6 months to do this. And to give you a benchmark, if you were to do that manually, if you were to go in and outline every building across the country, would take over 1,000 years of manual time. And it's important to outline highlight the level of accuracy that we're achieving here. On the right-hand side, you can see that we're accurately delineating the boundaries of each and every specific building. And this is important specifically for the insurance industry if you're leveraging that data set as a foundational element of any further subsequent analytics, such as understanding the roof condition or the roof type. You, of course, need an accurate outline of the building to do that. So now let me talk a bit about how this relates to insurance. And of course, understanding the location of a building is a prerequisite to understanding how catastrophes might affect that building. And to give a brief background on geocoding, that's the topic that I'm talking about, is most of the industry right now is using street level geocoding or parcel centered geocoding, meaning that if you enter an address, if someone comes to your website, asks for a quote, they enter an address, that point is being coded to the side of a road or the center of a parcel, which of course is a rough proxy, but doesn't give a great answer in terms of where the building actually is. Now, we've come to the market about 12 months ago now with the first complete building-based geocoding product in the United States. And this is, of course, built on the foundation of our United States building map and allows users to enter an address and get a point on top of the correct building. So let me talk about some examples of why this is important for underwriting cat risk. Specifically, I'll give an example of wildfire risk. So the interesting thing about wildfires is that it's more prevalent in rural areas where you naturally have larger parcels. You have more wooded areas and rural areas, and you naturally have larger parcels. So the difference between the parcel centroid and the actual building location is larger in these areas. And here's a pretty typical case where you have the center of the parcel is in the middle of a field, not close to any fuel sources or ignition sources, but the location of the building is close to other buildings, close to some brush, fuel sources, ignition sources, and has a much higher wildfire risk. And that's just based on this geocoding problem alone. So we took a look at how this affects the population at a larger scale and took one more rural county, Trinity County in California, 18,000 structures in that county. And we partnered with a company called Black Swan Analytics to run 2 different sets of geocoding through the same wildfire model. And we found that if you were to underwrite those properties based on parcel center geocodes versus the actual building location, you'd be underpricing over 1 in 10 times. And that was a very scary statistic for us and really underscored the importance of accurate geocoding when you're underwriting for cat risks such as wildfire. And then very briefly, I want to talk about how this data can be leveraged for responding to claims. And here's a case study that we ran with Munich Re, wherein they took our building-based geocoding for the United States. We have mapped out every building, have an address on top of it, and they sourced post-disaster imagery and were able to quickly generate a damage indicator for each specific building. So this did two specific things. One, it allowed insurers to run their policies through and get a quick understanding of how bad the damage was, how badly their book was affected. And 2, it also gave all these insurers a way to better deploy their loss adjusting resources and overall made the experience better for the clients and the insurers. So with that, I'll wrap up. I think I'm just running out of time, but looking forward to taking some of your questions and hopefully connecting with some of you after the event today.
Great, thanks, John. We are running up against time, but I think one quick question in terms of what it would look like deployment. So you mentioned your work with Munich Re. What does it take to create one of these vector maps from a timing perspective, et cetera?
So the United States is complete today. We have building-based geocoding, the complete map, all the geocoding available. It can be sent either as a bulk on-prem delivery, or we have it accessible via an API. So several US carriers are leveraging that product today.
Wonderful. And we are up against time, but of course we'll connect you to anybody specifically that has questions or wants to chat one-on-one.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, John.